Hey, good morning YouTube. Thank you for checking out my channel. Today's video is going to be all about the electronic system of the 92 Yamaha Banshee. What we're going to be doing is making sure all of our electronics are OEM and not Chinese stuff. And then what we're going to be doing is seeing what we need to just salvage from the 05 takeoff that we can use on the 92 to keep it as OEM as possible. So this video is going to be about checking out all these items and making sure they're all good to go so that we can start doing other things to the machines. So the motor is currently sitting. We're going to just start taking some parts off, starting with the shifter, just to see what we're going to be working with. Praying for something that looks OEM, not Chinese. Oh man, it looks ugly. Okay, so this does look OEM and I'm happy about it. So we're gonna make sure this is gonna work. I'm gonna take it out, put it into the other machine after I do put new plugs on the end of it. So that should be a plus. Doesn't look the best, but at least it's OEM. This has a part number on it, something 03200. 6200, and at the end it says 7LZ. I want to see if my wire wheel will do anything with it. I'm pretty sure it's OEM. It looks OEM. It ran before, so I don't know if I should replace it or not. Doesn't look the best, but this looks horrible. Flywheel pitted and rusted. I'm not really sure if there's anything I could even do with it at all. So I think we'll have to get one of these. We're gonna go ahead and get the 10 millimeter on here. Take these all off. We're going to get this whole thing tested and make sure it's good before we put it back on. All right, so we're inside, and this is the wiring harness that I removed from the Banshee, minus the stator plug that we took off earlier. The stator came off. By looks of it, it is OEM. I did check with the Banshee group on Facebook, make sure it's OEM. Everything is OEM on this. We're going to just clean it up a bit. And what we're going to do is make sure it all works correctly. And then if we get good ohm readings, we are going to put a new plug on this. Then we're good to go with that. As far as the rest of this goes, this is what I see that I'm not liking so far. I'm not sure if this is OEM or not, but looks like I have no brake light plug here. The wires have just been taped together. Let me take it off. And I'm wrong. I do have brake light plugs back here, so that's okay. This is the round style plugs, so this is for the 92. We have the rectifier back there, that looks fine. We have what it looks like the Tour Delete plugs cut off. Even though I'm not going to run them, I kind of wanted it to be on the machine just for future. Right here we have the buttons for the front, we have the headlights, plugs, we have the coil there. Basically I would need to get another plug right here to be able to hook up the coil pack as well. We have a new ECU coming, and then I do not have wires up front for a key switch. So there's a couple things. I mean, if I do not do the coil pack or the Tour Delete plugs, I could reuse this. I could put plugs on here for a key. And I would just need to put plugs on here for a TDI. So I'm gonna actually think about that for a little bit. What I meant to say was these are actually just replace the plugs here for the actual stator. But everything else is here. Honestly, I might use it. Put a new plug here. Go ahead and make sure I officially take these out so they're non-existent at all. And I have brake light plugs. I mean, I might just do that. The stator with the CDI is packed up as well, but it is not OEM, and I'm going to take all the Chinese stuff off. So this is, in my opinion, just trash. I mean, I can cut it and clean these wires up, but this is just trash. So we're gonna have a new OEM coil coming that's going to connect right here. We have OEM headlights already. We have the switches. We have this. Yeah, so I might just reuse what's here and just add a few plugs. All right, so this was just one of my final checks. I do have right here the 05, and I went ahead and took the stator and the flywheel off of this side and put the ones from the 92 on just to make sure everything was going to work well. So basically I just put them into the plugs just to make sure it was going to still function, and if it does, we're good. Yeah, we're going to set the camera up. I want to kick a couple times. If we can get it started, I know we're good to go as far as this area, you know, as far as starting it. And then soon we can start getting all the electronics together. And once we get all that together, we can get the motor and everything disassembled. Got a little piece of tape to hold my choke out. Yes, like I stated, these are bulk projects. I do have another choke lever and everything, but that's going to go on when I do the carb rebuilds. All right, I mean, I'm happy with that. The other one, first kick, shoot. So, I mean, I'm kind of happy with that. That stator is going to come back off. It's going to go back onto the 92. The magneto flywheel is going to be the same. We're going to go ahead and just close up the other side. This is a good thing about having two machines. Then both of them ran, that I can kind of switch parts to make sure they're still going to be good. And even when I say they both ran, what's the purpose of being able to check all this out? The 92 in its last, it ran like the first week I had it. Then after that, it would freaking kick back. So I'd kick and then would throw my leg up. So I wasn't able to get it started. I didn't even try to start it. So it's been a while since I've been able to get it, you know, fixed. And, you know, the Chinese CDI box and things like that, none of these help. So I'm going to go back to all OEM and we're going to reuse those parts. However, we're going to be working on getting that plug fixed. We're going to work on getting the thumb switch buttons for the 92 repaired, getting all that wiring connected and getting all that wiring wrapped up in this video. So real quickly, what we're going to do is we have the 05 stator right here, 92. We're going to put the plug on it, the 05 plug on this end, look just like this, and as well on the wiring harness. That way you don't have to even need adapters if you want to run an 05 stator. As well as we're going to put the two bullet style snap connectors, which is the yellow and black. We're going to add those two, but enjoy. So adding plugs to this isn't really that hard, but a few tips that you want to do is, first you want to make sure you want to get all your wires cut the same length. I did not cut the tips of my actual wires back any further because I did strip them, and that was originally to be able to feed them into the 2005 harness. So I kept those longer because I didn't want to even sacrifice the extra ½ inch of wire that was out. But you go ahead and you feed on your heat shrink tubes, Then you can strip your wires back, twist them onto the next section. As you see, I'm soldering everything together to make sure it's going to have a good solid connection. Then after that, you will slide the heat shrink tube back over, use the heat gun to melt everything down. And these heat shrink tubes are glue lined as well, so it provides a good waterproof, solid connection. So here we are. We have the whole setup sitting here looking good. All the electronics have been officially taken a look at and checked. However, we're just going to do a quick rundown of what we got going. The wiring wasn't too bad. I mean, there was a couple things that we had to address, a couple things we had to change, but overall, I think it did really good. So we're going to do a quick rundown of what we got going and have the final wrap up. We had the Banshees. Everything seemed to be working fine. So one of the things I did see was this was the CDI box that I had, and then I found these plugs kind of spliced together. I'm not really worried about the plugs because I could have taken care of those and made those a little bit more waterproof, but I did find one online that was a 92 or something like that. It had the circle plugs. It did have the cables cut off and it did have the plugs. However, I did just re-splice those and everything, and I'll tell you what I used to do all that. But as far as length goes, they're not much longer than the ones that come on an 06. That is an 06 CDI box. If you're wondering why we went with another CD box on the 06, it's just because after I was in there checking everything out, I found out it had another CDI box like this, and I wanted to make sure everything was OEM. Right here, brake lights, we have one of those coming in the mail, ground. This is OEM, it just needs to be cleaned up. I did go through all the wires. For Yamaha Banshees, they are just taped up, so I did go through all the wires, make sure none of them had rub-through marks in them, check continuity through all the wires. The stator I did find in there was OEM, so I didn't have to make any changes to it. OEM stator in there. We put it into the other Banshee, as you saw, to make sure it was going to run, but what we did do was put a 05 plug on it, and then we left these two, as you can disconnect there. So it has the same plug as the 05 does, so that wasn't too much of a problem there. We did have the 92 key with the 4 plugs there, so we got another key. The control wires were all spliced together with those blue connectors, but we have that as well down here, and it's going to be looking good. Plug right in there with no problems. Headlights going here. The other headlight will go into these plugs over here. We have a coil pickup here. We got an OEM one as well. The other one that was on there was Chinese. And that's it as far as the wiring goes. Over here, I did use my multimeter here just to use to check the continuity through the wires. Make sure everything was there and not broken. I started off with a cheap soldering iron like this, and this one wasn't really expensive, maybe like $45 off of Amazon, but it was a night and day difference in the ability to heat up the solder and get everything done. So use a nice soldering gun. So I use the heat shrink glue connectors. So first you slide your connector on, then you solder everything together. After it cools down a little bit, you slide the heat shrink back over it and you heat it up, and it will glue and shrink down on it. So it's better than tape for sure. But yeah, as far as it goes. All right, so one of the final things that I do have to say is that the Yamaha Banshee 92 does not have a actual brake light. It has a tail light that comes on when the machine's on, just like the headlights come on, but you don't have an actual brake functioning light. So on the actual brake lever up there, there is no switch. That's why there's none down here, and there's no switch down there on the foot. So you do have the tail light, but not an actual brake light. That is something that they added on, I think in like 2003, 2004. I know it is on the 05, but it's not gonna be here on the 92. But that's it. Thank you for checking out this video, everyone. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We did get the wiring harness completely done. I didn't have to buy a new one or anything, so we're gonna continue rocking with what we have rocking with. Next thing hopefully we'll be doing is starting to break down the motor here soon to get the bottom end switched over into the new cases. Yeah, I got different cases just to make sure it looks all good and all that. And we're just gonna see where the project takes us next.